What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sunday Sports Club Podcast, a podcast all about sports. And from time to time, we have a guest or two. And today we are talking with Colton Underwood. Colton Underwood was in the NFL as a linebacker and tight end from 2014 to 2016 before becoming a fan favorite on The Bachelorette. He then went on to be on The Bachelor, as many of we know, and he also came out on Good Morning America. So today we're going to talk with Colton about becoming a dad, homosexuality in sports, and being on practice squad, because at the end of the day, it is legit. Colton Underwood, you are about to have a baby any day now.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Great. Excited, nervous, anxious, mainly excited. All of the things.
Yeah. Have you been getting a lot of unsolicited advice?
So much advice. And what I've learned is just you have to pick and choose who you're taking your advice from.
For sure.
And I don't need advice as much as sometimes my husband likes to run things by people who he trusts and actually give good advice. But I'm of the mindset of this is our baby and we're going to love him and we're going to do our best.
I feel like that's what parenthood is just doing your best.
Yeah.
I read or I listened that you had said that growing up, a teacher asked you to write down on a card what your dream job was, and you put NFL.
Yeah.
And then she said, think a little bit more realistically.
Sent me back to my desk. I had to do the walk of shame back to my desk.
You're like, okay, fine, I'll prove you wrong. But then you wrote stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, and she accepted that one with no problem.
Which is crazy because I feel like back then, times have changed so much that now becoming a stay-at-home dad is something that I feel like people find so oh my God, such a great thing.
Totally.
And then I feel like there's also this other stance where stay-at-home moms are like, oh my God, how dare you not have dinner on the table and whatnot. But so you're really excited to be a dad. I mean, it's something that you've dreamt of your entire life. And I was doing some research about you, and it's a reason that you were so hesitant to come out as gay, because becoming a father, some might say that it's just a harder journey.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I just didn't see a lot of representation in the gay community of families and people building families in a non-traditional way. So I think that definitely was one of the top three, reasons why I was in the closet, with the other two being just religion and sports.
Yeah, which we'll get into the sports side in a little bit. But what are you most excited to be a dad? What part are you looking forward to the most?
Sounds so weird, but I can't wait to watch Jordan become a dad too. I think for any time you get to watch your partner love and care, even when I first introduced him to my dog that I had separately from him and they started bonding, it melted my heart. I was like, oh, this is precious. So I can't wait to watch Jordan become a father. And then also I'm just looking forward to Saturdays and Sundays on the couch snuggling and bottle time while I'm watching football.
No, totally. It's one of the best things. I feel like it just makes everything better. Everyone's going to scare you and be like, oh, you're not going to get sleep, which you probably won't get a lot of sleep. Yeah. But I feel like not enough people talk about the positive side where doing the dishes and your baby wearing it's just instantly better because you have a baby attached to you, and it's just the best.
I mean, I can't wait. It's I have so many of those strap-on dad packs. I guess moms can wear them too, but I have so many of them, and I cannot wait to test them all out.
I have to give a recommendation: the Artie Pop baby wearing.
Have it.
Oh my gosh.
The cloud one. I have the blue and white cloud one.
I'm jealous you have the blue and white cloud one because I have the boring colors, and I really want to exchange for a bold color.
Yes.
I need to take a second and be real with you guys. I'm not the best cook, but I do love cooking, especially for my daughter. I've been cooking up meals every single day, and I've fallen in love with my Caraway cook set. And yes, they look very aesthetically pleasing sitting on my stovetop. I actually ended up getting the navy color, and it's chef's kiss, pun intended. But I also love that they are non-toxic cookware, free of dangerous chemicals. And as a mom and also somebody who eats off the Caraway cookware, it gives me a lot of peace of mind. When I was picking out my pans, it was honestly a difficult process because I didn't know what color to get. There's just a lot of colors to choose from, but they're all aesthetic, which is a good thing. Good problem to have. But beyond the fact that they look good, they also cook food really well. My husband cooks all the meals in this family except my daughters, and he's been loving on them, saying that they're easy to clean, no food sticks to the bottom. And my mom, when she came to visit, said she loved them so much and she wanted her own set. This is actually a reminder to myself to get her a set. So many people end up buying one pan to test it out, but then have buyer's remorse because they didn't just invest in the full set in the first place. Caraway's internet famous cookware set comes with a saute pan, fry pan, Dutch oven, and saucepan, plus lids for all of them and a canvas lid holder and a magnetic pan rack for storage. It's actually so perfect. It fits right on your cabinet door and you never have to worry about I don't know. I feel like these things can be difficult to store sometimes, right? But Caraway makes it easy. It's the ultimate kitchen setup and will save you $150 first buying the items individually. So ditch the chemicals with Caraway. Caraway Home's non-toxic kitchenware features a chemical-free ceramic coating so food can be prepared with peace of mind knowing that no hard-to-pronounce chemicals are there. Visit carawayhome.com/Sunday to see all of our favorite products and cookware we use to make cooking easy for even the most amateur home chefs. Plus, take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/Sunday or use code Sunday at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. So do you think when it comes to parenting, you and Jordan are going to be the same type of dads? Do you think
No.
you're going to be bad cop, good cop?
Oh, we're almost polar opposites of parenting.
No.
And so much so that once again, I'm going to use the example of our dogs because that's all I have right now. But
Dogs are kids too, I feel like.
yes, I am really bad at disciplining. And he's just like, you cannot keep making me the bad cop here. I have to be the one to discipline our dogs. Our dogs are not going to like me. So he's like, please, when we have a baby, you have to step up too and hold a ground. Also, I think he would admit this too. He's a little bit more of the helicopter where I'm like, let him get sick and let him learn the hard way, to a certain degree, right?
Right.
But I'm just more of a nonchalant, chill, go with the flow, whatever happens, happens. And he's very much we went to California Highway Patrol to install our car seats, and we're doing everything to the max.
He's very type A.
Yes, and I love it because he makes me a better parent because of that. But it's a different style. I'll say that.
So it's going to be very interesting seeing how you guys come into your dadhood.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what I thought originally, I was like, oh, for sure, I'm going to be the type A. I'm going to have everything thought out and this and that. And then the baby comes and I'm like, oh, it's chill. I'm on doing some research. I'm like, I guess we could give her peanut butter tomorrow. My husband's like, wait, should we do that at the hospital? What should we be doing? So I feel like it's such an interesting thing coming into that. But I feel like dogs are really good.
In a way, I feel
to gauge it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we have a German Shepherd and an Australian Shepherd. So they're a little needy and smart. So I think it's as human as you can get, I guess, for dog breeds.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of dadhood, you've interviewed some good guests on your podcast, Daddyhood.
Yeah.
So what's the most important lesson you've learned?
I've learned so many, from interviewing surrogates to egg donors to doctors to fertility lawyers. I think the one thing I learned through my journey with Daddyhood, because we're done with season 1, we still have 2 weeks left of releases, but I think just love is the most important thing. And, loving your child, loving the home you're in, loving the journey and appreciating it for what it is was what I really took away because, I heard some heartbreaking stories. I heard some wild twists and turns in people's journeys, and they got through it with the power of love. And I think that was my big takeaway. I was like, we're going to be just fine because Jordan and I are filled with love that we're going to pour into this baby.
Totally. I mean, having a supportive home, I think so many people on social media come out and say, oh, I have childhood trauma. And I feel like that's the one thing I'm worried as a parent to I don't want to traumatize my kid, but I also want them to have a stern upbringing. I don't want them to be off doing whatever. So it's just such a unique perspective, and I feel like giving them love no matter what, it's important.
Yeah, I just think love and affection, and you're right though, to a certain degree, you want to have some structure in the house and you want to have some rules and you don't want to get ran over, but you also want to be the cool mom and the cool dad, and it's definitely going to be a balance to try to figure that out.
Has anybody given you bad advice?
I mean, yes, but I'm not going to tell them it's bad advice. I just think people push their game plans, birth plans, whatever worked for them onto people unnecessarily.
For sure.
And they have to just realize 2 dads are going to parent different than 2 moms, and 2 moms are going to parent different than a dad and a mom. And that's not wrong. That's just it works for that family. And I think like that's the perspective that I keep here is like, I will listen to everybody's advice.
Right.
If I take it, that's a whole nother story. And Jordan and I are really good at being on the same page too.
Yeah, you've probably seen like Crunchy Mom, Crunchy Parent. Do you guys know when it comes to those things? Have you had those conversations like, oh, we're going to definitely do this, definitely do that? Or is it more of just like, oh, okay, we're on the same page, so we're just going to figure it out?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how much you want to get into it, and I don't mind opening up about this too, but like we're delaying some of the vaccine schedules. We are, we're not doing some of the eye drops that had come out, right? Like we did our research on like what, and I think just to educate people a little bit too is like when you go through IVF, you do so much more testing, not only on the surrogate and the mother, but also like the baby and the embryo and everything that went into it. So some of these shots, vaccines, some of these eye drops, some of these things that happen in standard protocol aren't needed for us because we've already done the research.
Totally.
So that's definitely one thing. And then two, the other thing we're big on is as soon as he's able to eat solid foods, we're going to start, just because like there's so much research and studies done saying, your sinuses and nasals and jaw, and it's so healthy for the baby to gnaw on things early. So as soon as he can eat solids, we're going to solids.
You're handing him a T-bone.
Which helps for us too, because we don't have breast milk, obviously, and we have to source that from our surrogate. And obviously formula is a great, there's decent options out there too. But that's just like little things we've already discussed.
Yeah, I guess that was going to be something that I just personally wanted to know with like the formula versus breast milk, because I've heard that there are breast milk donors.
Yes.
So are you guys using your surrogate?
Yeah.
You also don't have to answer.
No, yeah. Our game plan right now is to use our surrogate. I will say this, we hit the jackpot of surrogates, and she's incredible. Her family's, so sweet and been so supportive and so kind to us. And we're very lucky that we have a great relationship where we can ask her to do that. And she's close by, so we can, have the deliveries and keep it fresh.
For sure. And I have to say, like, Uber, they offer like the delivery, which I don't know if you want to use it because it's like liquid gold, but I feel like it's a great, like, something to utilize. There are so many different technologies and things like that. But speaking of your surrogate, I definitely want to talk about your journey with fertility, because I feel like whenever I think of a fertility journey, I instantly think of social media with women dealing with infertility, but you had a unique experience dealing with infertility related to your sperm count and just like IVF in general. So kind of just walk us through like you guys making the decision to do IVF and like where that started.
Yeah. So early on in our relationship, Jordan and I spoke about how we wanted to have a family, and it was really important to us. And after sort of weighing the options of adoption and foster care and IVF, we decided to go with IVF for, our first child. Yeah. And starting the process, I was so nonchalant about it. I was, first I didn't really know what to do. So I called my agent at CA and I was like, hey, you have two beautiful children. You and your husband went through what do we need to do? He helps me sort of build my team. And not a lot of people talk about like how many people. At one point we had, I think at one point we had 12 people on our fertility team between doctors, lawyers, nurses, a surrogate, an egg donor agency, all of these people helping build our family. Yeah. It was a little intimidating.
There's a lot of people in the bedroom.
Yes. But I just casually strolled into the office and I was like, all right, you need my sample. I'll go give you the sample. And I was like, so like cool about it. And then we get to the doctor's office and he like slides Jordan's paper and test results to him. They're like 55 million sperm per unit. This all looks great. And I was like so excited. I was like, I'm going to beat him because I'm like so competitive. And he's like, and Colton, you have 4 and they're all dead. And I was like, oh, and then he moved on. And I was like, wait, hold on. Can we back up to the point where you said you have 4, where I have 4? And he asked, he's like, so are you doing X, Y, and Z? And he lists, he's like, are you doing sauna and steam room? Are you doing hot tub? Are you doing hot baths? Are you working out? Are you riding a Peloton or a bike? And I answered yes to every single one that you could possibly be doing to crush your testosterone. Yeah. Or, crush your sperm count. And the other one was I was taking testosterone post-football. And that I didn't know sterilizes men as well. So
isn't that so crazy? I feel like when it comes to healthcare, there's such a huge lack of information for women in some aspects, but and for men in others. I mean, as an athlete, I just from watching my husband, I know the amount of things you do to your body to get it ready to play football.
Yeah.
So did you know, though, like going into that would affect the sperm count?
No, because no men, for the most part, men don't talk about their reproductive health.
Right.
Like we actually don't have conversations and we don't go to doctors like women do for the reproductive organs. And other than STD and STI testing and HIV testing, there's no real reason for men to go in. So like the first thing I started doing when I started talking about this openly was encouraging anybody who is struggling to get pregnant to have the men go get tested, because oftentimes it's so unfair to the women because they're the ones who feel bad and are getting blamed and like are trying to match their cycles up. Like they have to, it's a mathematical thing for them.
You become obsessed. When you're trying to get pregnant, you become obsessed with like,
oftentimes-
oh, I'm ovulating in 12 hours. Or
Yeah,
like,
but the majority of it too, the men don't get tested at least a year into struggling. And that is mind-blowing to me, is that men can go a year without even thinking it's their problem too.
It's
before
crazy.
They get tested.
Well, it's crazy you say that. I have a friend, she's on social media, and she 2 years into their infertility journey found out her husband's sterile.
Yeah.
So he's not even producing sperm. So think of 2 years of trying for a baby just to find out that.
And she was probably taking hormone injections and doing all of, it's expensive and it's wild on a woman's body. And then on top of it, the man's just sitting there like, that's not really my problem.
Right. So when you found that out, did you feel like you had anywhere to turn to? Like
No.
for information? Were you just on Google, like how to increase sperm count?
I was, I'm pretty good once I have a game plan and a strategy. And the doctor, I had to call another urologist and consult with him. And then we put a game plan together. And this is where like Jordan, I will praise him, like did not need to improve his numbers and or change lifestyles with me because his numbers were fine. He did everything to support me. He stopped doing hot tubs. He stopped drawing baths. He stopped, sauna and steam room. He stopped with testosterone. Like he made all those changes that I made too, just to help support me. So it wasn't like a lopsided thing where I was like looking at him in the hot tub being like, you asshole.
Right. That's great. Well, I feel like a supportive partner, like getting pregnant and the things leading up to actually having the baby shows so much about becoming a parent. Yeah. And I feel like it's just such a telltale sign, which unfortunately for some people, I'm like, oh, like that guy's been a red flag for a minute. You thought he was like going to be waking up in the middle of the night. Yeah. So now do you have men reaching out to you? Like looking for support or like trying to get information? Yeah,
I do. And actually, I have women too who are like, oh my gosh, this was my husband. I had close friends of mine who sort of confided in me after I said that and was like, that, and it was almost like a whisper voice where like, even when we were alone, they were like, said it in shame, where they were like, that was sort of like my case too. Right. And I was like, you can talk normal here. Like it just,
we can talk about it.
You
sperm,
can tell
sperm.
They felt, and I get this because I felt this when he handed me my thing. I felt inferior as a male. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, men aren't supposed to not have, like, that's the easiest and like a normal thing for me to have is sperm. Why don't I have it? So part of me understands why men are a little sheepish around talking about it. But I think just like normalizing the conversation, and health looks different for everyone. And I think, I don't know, I just wish people would be a little bit more kind and open-minded to like just discussing it. For sure. Yeah. And you've been like an open book. Is there anything that you don't want to share regarding your IVF journey or like... No, I mean, the whole point of me doing Daddyhood was because I felt like there weren't enough resources out there for not only LGBTQ plus people, but any family building plans. I think there's a lot of stigma and shame around it. For sure. And there's a lot of, guilt and a lot of navigating different emotions and feelings. And I wanted to be as open as possible with as much as I could be with respect to my lawyers, doctors, and people who wanted to remain anonymous. Yeah. I always had to like, I was like, emphasis on lawyers. Yes. I had the honor of having my lawyer and my doctor actually on my podcast. So that was cool. I just was like, I might as well use you. You're like, what can I legally not say? Right. But no, I remember when the Alabama ruling came for IVF, I called my lawyer immediately. I was like, hey, can we do an emergency episode to just break this down and explain the facts of what's happening right now? And he's like, absolutely. So that's what we did. And it helped me too because I didn't fully understand what was going on. I think a lot of people were sort of trying to figure out and dissect what this meant. For sure. And he just broke it down, statistic, like just
He's
the
like,
facts.
this is the facts.
He's like, here's the facts of what happened.
Last piece of advice I'll ask if somebody has given you. Has anybody just said, hold your baby like a football?
Oh my gosh, no, but I will say this.
I'm surprised nobody said that.
I saw someone holding their baby like this, and I was like, what is that? And she's like, this is the football cradle. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely using that. But I haven't got to practice, and I haven't figured out. I'm like trying to figure out, is the chest is on the hand.
Right, yeah. You're
and
like.
then the head, but like the neck muscles have to be developed
I think you
enough.
use like your fingers to hold the neck, like the head, under the chin.
See, that's what gets me scared is like when my two fingers can hold the head up, I'm like, how small is this little thing going to be?
No, my husband and I were talking before you came in here. I was like, yeah, Isaac, you have to teach him like the football hold. And he was trying to do it, but our daughter is in the 99th percentile. He's like, I think it would have been.
She's adorable, by the way.
She's huge. Yes. She's a mammoth. But like.
Which, by the way, ours is a big baby.
Really?
That's why, he's big. He's in the 90th percentile in a few different categories. We're very proud. We're like, yes.
We're very proud. Yeah, it's something good to hear when you're a man, when you're a woman with the child inside of you, you're like, oh.
I didn't think, that's a little inconsiderate to my surrogate. But.
No, it's okay. I think in a way though, like now that I've given birth, I definitely in the back of my head, I'm like, yes, like I did that. Like I grew this like D1 baby.
I always joke because my parents were both D1 athletes that I was bred, not born. Like they knew what they were doing.
No, literally me and Isaac.
They knew I was getting a scholarship the moment I was born.
Right.
So
honestly, I'm waiting for Scotty to get hers. I'm like, she's crawling up the stairs at 9 months old. She needs
to go to camps next summer.
Right. Her offer letter should be coming in the mail anytime. Okay, guys, can we take a second to talk about something that's not sports? Let's talk about our favorite Sunday football foods because let's be honest, this is a time to indulge ourselves. When I think of football, I think of tailgating. When I think of tailgating, I think of food. And when I think of food, I usually think of Shake Shack. No, I'm not kidding. I consumed so much Shake Shack when I was pregnant. The burgers, the fries, the chocolate shake, the amount of chocolate shakes I consumed while pregnant. Honestly, I'm craving one right now. But something I want to talk about today is their chicken sandwich. My friends at Shake Shack brought back free chicken Sundays from now until December, so pretty much the entire regular football season because everybody deserves a fucking good chicken sandwich, especially on Sundays when you're watching your favorite team. I know I'm sharing the lowdown on sports, but let me share the lowdown on the sandwich for a second. I'm sure a lot of you probably know Shake Shack for their burgers and like their burgers are good, but the chicken sandwich is so underrated. The Shake Shack Chicken Shack is made with crispy white meat, antibiotic-free chicken breast over lettuce, pickles, buttermilk, herb, mayo on a toasted potato bun. You guys, my mouth is actually watering right now. Like it's hard for me to talk because oh my God, I need to go get one. This sandwich outshines its competition and extra points for it being available on a Sunday. It's available on Sunday. From now until December 15th, Shake Shack is offering a free Chicken Shack with $10 minimum purchase with the code Chicken Sunday at a Shack location on the Shack app or at shakeshack.com every Sunday. Terms apply. I do want to play a quick little game. NFL Daddy Daycare. So we're going to go over a few different NFL positions, and you're going to describe what kind of parent they would be. So, linebacker. What kind of parent is a linebacker?
I feel like a linebacker is a good one, but I feel like linebacker is willing to step up when they need to, but it also likes to delegate. So like they would be in charge of, the nannies and the night nurses and like the extra help around the house. But if push came to shove, they would step in and help too.
Okay. Kicker.
Oh. Kicker's like the daddy who is going to be outside just like playing, but wants like none of the serious roles. Just wants to have like fun with the baby.
I feel that. Defensive end.
Defensive end is a little messy with his diaper technique, but like still knows how to get the job done and like sometimes lets the baby finish the bottle. Other times like just sets it down.
Isaac. That's literally you. Tight end.
Tight end, I would say, is very detail-oriented, is organized, steps up, and has more maternal instincts.
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver, might not. That was so bad, the first thought that came to my mind. A minimal role.
Okay. And quarterback.
Quarterback is there calling the shots, is similar to the linebacker where he's delegating a lot, but he's much better at communicating with like the nanny and the chef and the house cleaner and all those things. But he's definitely putting it off.
I need Isaac to be the quarterback, but not the put off part.
Yeah.
I need him to like jump into things. So now we can jump into football a little bit. So did you grow up a football fan? How did you ever start liking football? I know your parents were both athletes in college. So kind of like walk me through that.
I was born in Indianapolis, so I grew up going to Colts and Pacers games. I loved sports. I loved football from a young age. And then, it wasn't really until my junior or senior year of high school till I was like really good. And like I knew I had a shot. I committed to Illinois State my junior year of high school. I played my whole senior season sort of carefree because I knew I already had my scholarship lined up and there was the pressure wasn't there. And I had an amazing 4 years in college. And I went to Illinois State because of early playing time. I played as a true freshman, started a couple games, more learned what not to do my freshman year, but we all need that too.
Right.
And I had 2 All-American years and it was a dream come true. I have such a love for the locker room. I have like a love-hate relationship with it. There was parts that I like absolutely loved about it and the cultures and the experiences and sharing that bond with people. And then obviously there's other things that happen in locker rooms where you're like not really proud of. And then I got to play professionally for 3 years and that was an honor to, help and contribute to a team.
Yeah. So with your parents both being D1 athletes, did you feel like pressure to become an athlete or was it more so like something you looked up to?
I more so was doing it just because they told me if I was playing sports year round, I didn't have to get a job.
Why my parents tell me the same thing?
They're
like, honestly onto something because it keeps you out of trouble. Like
totally. And I mean, good for them though too, because not only are you not making money, you're costing them a lot of money because it's expensive to be in year round sports.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was the reason why I was playing. I played basketball, football, and track, and it was to not have to have a job.
But then you fell in love with it.
But then I fell in love with it, and I really enjoyed it, and it was challenging and unique, and I was never the most athletic. I just worked really, really hard, and I was definitely not the smartest player. But I studied, and I like knew where I needed to be, and like I knew what my strengths and weaknesses were.
So do you think that you'll take like the same stance on your son? You think he's going to play sports? Are you going to push him into football? Yeah,
this is an ongoing conversation because I married a man that went to Stanford and was a valedictorian, and he values academics and brain health. And then
for sure,
he's basically like, our son will not play football. And I'm like, our son is playing football. And we're going to figure it out. And I hope the helmets continue to get better.
I know. The Guardian cap. You're going to have like 3 Guardian caps on.
I know. I'm like, can we put like a force field or a band or a bubble around him and like, please let him play?
Right. But I feel like I will say like football in general will help pay for a really good education.
I mean that, and I'm looking at these baseball contracts nowadays. So I'm like, there's so many sport options.
Yeah. So maybe you'll let him try everything then.
Yeah. Let's see what he likes.
Yeah. So you played on a different practice squads throughout the NFL. Yeah. What was your experience as a practice squad member?
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I know like the public I used to get so offended when people are like, yeah, but he's a practice squad player. I'm like, they're still very good.
Fucking retweet.
It always drove me nuts. I was like, would you walk into Apple and be like, you're a secretary at Apple? And I'm like, she still works at Apple. Like
she works in Apple, you don't.
Anyway, I loved it because it was really only like 2 days of work.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 walkthroughs essentially. And then I traveled 2 years out of my 3 that I was on practice squad. The first year I didn't. And it was the best because I was living in San Diego with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Going to the beach and like working 2 days a week and making 6 figures right out of college. I was like, this is incredible.
That's why I get so confused by people hate on practice squad. I mean, obviously, like there's a competitive component where you're like, yeah, I would love to be playing on Sundays.
Right.
But I also think that like it's not the worst thing in the world. And I hate when they're like, oh, he's on practice squad though. I'm like,
right.
I would love to be on practice squad.
It's so sometimes, and it's not the players. This is what I've learned is it's not actually the players in the locker room. It's like the wives and the external factors that are a little cliquey.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, you're not up to our standards. And I'm like, because I practice with your partner, your husband, or you're like, make it make sense.
So what NFL teams have you played on and what's been your favorite?
I went undrafted in 2014 to the San Diego Chargers. And then I bounced. Right after that, I got cut. I got flown to Philadelphia for a tryout with the Eagles, made the practice squad there. They, unfortunately, due to numbers, had 2 offensive linemen go down, so they needed to bring in another lineman. So then I got cut, but they tried. Chip Kelly was the coach at the time. They tried to hold me there to re-sign me the next week, but the Chargers signed me to their practice squad. So I went back to San Diego, finished out the year there, did another round of training camp, played in all 4 preseason games, got cut but added to the practice squad again, got injured, and then I finished my career with the Raiders, and I had an injury in training camp, and that was sort of my calling sign of like, okay, enough is enough here.
So that led you to ultimately retire.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation. I was at the Stedman Clinic. It was my shoulder, and the doctor said to me, he's like, I can fix this, and you can play again, but if you get hit in the same spot, you won't be able to lift your kids over your head. And I was like, oh, it really was like the first time where I was like, oh, this sport now has the ability to affect the rest of my life in a negative way, and I don't want that.
Yeah, you're like, I think I'm...
So it's like, I'll take the surgery and move on, and we're good.
So what is your relationship with football now?
I'm obsessed and love it. I have fantasy football. I do the occasional sports betting. I admire those guys. I'm not like... I love the Chargers just because they treated me so well, pre and post career.
I love the Chargers.
They're the best. They have a great leadership, great organization. I can never say anything bad about them. But I'm a big fan of players. I just love the journey, and I always love rooting for the underdog. That's like my go-to. I love rooting for those undrafted guys. I love rooting for the 6th and 7th rounders. I just love watching them get their flowers.
Totally. I so agree. And I feel like that's like part of why I love having this podcast, because talking about like the underdogs who end up coming out on top. I mean, we have Jordan Mason with the 49ers, who is undrafted free agent and is now killing it.
Right. He's on my fantasy team, by the way.
No way.
I saw a little thing, and it was like an insider thing where it's like the Niners are playing down McCaffrey's injury. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to pick Mason up because like that's a great pull in case he's out. And now he's out and placed on IR.
I would hate to be on your fantasy league. I would be so pissed at you.
Well, the guy who drafted McCaffrey is very pissed at me. And I made sure to rub it in his face.
Yeah, right. Well, okay. So now we can transition more so into your experience with homosexuality in and around the NFL. So you said you had an opportunity to come out in 2014 when you entered the draft. Michael Sam came out as gay in 2014, and he was the first openly gay football player to be drafted to an NFL team. So how did that affect you at the time?
So much. It was I had mixed feelings about it.
For sure.
I was so excited, and I was like deep down so proud, but also I was so scared for him. And like, I sort of took a step back. I was like, I'll just watch and see how this plays out. And while there was the support in the media and maybe a little bit on social media, I was a part of a different locker room.
For sure.
Like, not saying any names, but like there was a lot of people who were very homophobic and very mean and very rude next to me in the locker room. And like were openly making jokes, because then he got signed. I think he was with the Rams on practice squad. And like, they only kept, and then like the thing was like they only kept him for jersey sales from the Queen. Like some of like, and that's the lighter thing, but like the language was not appropriate. And it really pushed me even further into the closet, because I was like, oh, it isn't safe yet to come out. Right. Because like, I don't want to do this to this locker room. And like, I'm a practice squad guy. I want to keep my head down and keep working hard. There's no room for me to come out. I would not get the same support. Because, you know, you even look at Michael Sam was an SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
He was an incredible football player.
And he got drafted in the 7th round after he publicly came out.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to note too. Like maybe it was his skill level, maybe it was homophobia. I don't know. I personally think if you statistically look at the last 10 years of SEC Defensive Players of the Year, they're not getting drafted in the 7th round.
For sure.
That's just something.
No, absolutely.
I sort of, that pops out to me.
And my husband and I were talking about this on our way up to LA to have this conversation. And he said that, so he was at Notre Dame at the time when this all was happening. And when he got drafted, the camera pans to him and he kisses his boyfriend. And I mean, my husband said he went into the locker room and guys are like, that's fucking disgusting. And like, why would you do that on the camera? I can only imagine how that would make you feel as somebody who is a football player heading into the NFL and like all the thoughts and feelings?
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know if you can cuss on this, but it was like a mind fuck. And I was like, what do I do next? And like so much so that I was so stiff. And like I don't have a lot of regrets like with my career. But I can't help but wonder if I would have been a more relaxed and better player if I wasn't carrying that weight of like the shame around being gay.
For sure.
And also just the mental gymnastics of having to lie and have like, I remember I had a folder of boobs on my phone just in case one of my teammates asked to like see who I was dating. I knew how to cover my tracks, and like I really wanted to be straight so bad so that I didn't have to have this burden. But obviously the other part of that thing that I regret is I could have been there to support Michael.
For sure.
And like sort of said, hey, like I'm here too.
Yeah.
And then maybe that helped the third come out.
Yeah.
Like you never know what that could have done. And like I feel a little guilty about that.
So how do you think from these conversations in the locker room, I mean, they can be so harmful to people in the locker room. You don't know what these guys are going through, or like there could be so many other men that are feeling that same way, or even men in other circumstances that just hear this rhetoric.
Yeah. I think we have a long way to go. Yeah. And, I never liked, my biggest thing is I don't like when people compare traumas.
Yeah.
But I definitely can draw some comparisons to, for locker room specific stuff is like, you wouldn't accept racism in your locker room.
Right.
So why would you accept homophobia? Mm-hmm. Just maybe because we don't have enough people that are out and openly playing.
Right.
Doesn't mean you don't have a queer person in your locker room.
For sure.
And, I'll say this too, like I had a couple NFL players reach out to me who are gay.
Yeah.
Like they're and just for NFL fans out, like there are gay players in the league. And they feel like right now and maybe I don't want to speak for all of them, but they don't really have a pathway to come out and without being ridiculed and a distraction, what they feel like would be a distraction to the team.
Absolutely. So do you think the NFL is working, not the organization in general, but more so like the teams and players, do you think they're working more towards an open conversation when it comes to like being gay? I
think so. I think, the NFL I know for sure is doing its part. They have a great partnership with GLAAD, which is training their professional management and staff, which I think is the first step. But
for sure.
I think before we actually even get to like the NFL of it all, we need a gay stud college football player to go and get drafted in the first round. I think that's the key to all of this, and or one of the all-pro NFL vets to like come out and just be like, this is me, this is who I am.
Yeah. So do you think sports help or hurt a closeted kid?
They hurt. Yeah. At the end of the day, our sports culture is one of the last frontiers to be accepting of the LGBTQ plus community. Mm-hmm.
Which hopefully we're working towards a better.
I hope so. I think I don't know. I think that so many people are going through so many different things these days.
Totally.
That like just because you love somebody different, should not affect a playing career or your skill level on or off the court or field.
Mm-hmm. And since you've came out, have you had any teammates or people you've been around like from your NFL career that reached out and said like that aren't gay that have been like, oh, I'm happy, like so proud of you?
Yeah, I've had a few that have sort of like stepped up and just said like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. And if I ever said anything, like one of the, I just sticks out is like one of my college coaches called me right away. And I've had a lot of teammates who reached out, and it meant a lot coming from those guys.
Yeah. Which I feel like that has to be such like a full circle moment, like you struggling, but like being friends with all these people and then going through this really hard thing, like being so open and then people not reaching out. I feel like I would be like, are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, yeah, these are like your brothers who you like literally bled with and got up at 4 a.m. And
in training camp, I feel like definitely creates some strong friendships. I mean, y'all are struggling.
Totally. And I think, sometimes like the lazy route that a lot of people take that I feel like is a little homophobic is they sexualize queer men that like. Oh,
that you were like checking them out?
That I was like, you wish. I was like, no, sorry, I'm not. No,
you're like, I'm not into you.
I was never like, I'm still professional and like I'm not gonna be like, you know, like that. It's such a lazy, weird thing to me where people are like, I don't want them in my locker room. And it's like, good, I don't want to look at you naked.